Hi there, crafty friends. Welcome and thank you for joining me. Today we are going to make a card using Pink Fresh Studios Retro Camp Days. Now, I know we just did a Pink Fresh Studio card a couple weeks ago, but I am in love with this camper. You know that we take our motorhome out all the time, and when I saw this, I just had to get it. This is a great set. You've got your larger camper with trees stamp, and then you've got 15 sentiment stamps. And these are great stamps. I just love this set. And you also can purchase the coordinating dies. Now, the dies do not cut out the camper. The dies are for the sentiments only, and they are for your more scripty sentiments. The straight line sentiments you can just cut out with your trimmer. And then we've also got the stencil set. So this is a 4-piece stencil set, and it is huge. And it's actually got 2 stencils on one. So let's go ahead and get started. I've got my Misty here, and I've got a piece of paper to start with. And we are just going to make sure that that is in the left-hand corner because we are going to heat emboss after we are done ink blending our image. I think that's good. I just want to make sure that doesn't shift at all. And to start with, I am just going to ink it up with Metropolis. We don't need it to be perfect, but we do want to be able to see those lines. That looks good. All right, let's get that out of here, and don't take that stamp out yet. So I did get some of the Pink Fresh Studio grip mats, but we're not going to use one yet. I'm kind of holding off. I don't want to get them dirty yet. So let's get our image on there. And these stencils, they are marked. They're marked A1 and B1. And we are actually just going to start with B1. So we've got A1, A2, A3, A4. B1, B2, B3, B4. And I think you're supposed to start with the A's and then move on to the B's, but you know what? We're not even going to do that. I am just going to take the very first one, and we are going to start with our grass. I've got that all lined up, and we are just going to start with some grassy knoll. So this card today we're doing, one of our friends that we went camping with a couple weeks ago is having a birthday in September, and she just got a new camper. They traded in their motorhome and they got a little trailer, and I want to kind of make the coloring. Their trailer is black and white, but we are going to kind of go with a gray because I wasn't sure how the black would look. So we're just going to change the colors up a little bit, but we're going to try to make it similar. So we've got a good coating of grassy knoll on there. We are now going to come in with olive, and we're going to use a smaller brush, and we're just going to kind of hit the edges. I want to add a little bit of depth to that green, and I just love this set. You know, and it makes the perfect flat card because we will be using our panel here and just trimming it out, but it's perfect because it will mail really easily. I think that's pretty good. And I will clean that off before we do our trees. And just be cautious when you're cleaning your stencil because there are little bits that you could accidentally bend up. So now we've got our trees. So now we're going to come in with some sky blue. And I will try kind of hold my trees down, the taller ones, just so my brush doesn't go underneath them. And we're going to go fairly heavy. And I'm going to concentrate the majority of the ink up in my corners and at the top. And we'll leave a little bit of glow kind of right in the middle area. And then we'll come in with some Blue Jay. Everything I use today will be listed and linked in the description below. And we're just going to go around that edge and make it a beautiful bright blue sky. And I think that's perfect. So now we will come in with, this is B2 and that's A2, but I'm just going to do B2 first. And we need to do a little bit of masking. My trailer is going to be gray, but my accents, my chairs and my blankets on the inside, those are going to be blue and purple. But let's get everything masked off. So we'll bring in Metropolis again, and I'm actually going to use a big brush for this. I want to go heavy, and this is the quickest way to get a nice dark coating of ink on there. And I will also be doing our trim dark gray. That's the trim on our door. And you know what, for that, I'll bring in a little brush here. It'll just go quicker. And this will lighten a little bit, so let's just leave it like that. I need to do my tire in Metropolis, my chairs. We're coming in with a nice light coating of sky blue. And then we will also make our little pot for our plant light blue, sky blue. Then for my pillow on the inside of my trailer, I am going to make that opulence, but I'm going to go pretty light. And it's okay if a little bit of that opulence got onto our Metropolis for the door frame. You won't even notice. And I will also put a little bit of opulence on that mug handle. And I think that is going to be so pretty. So we need to bring in some more masking tape. Let's mask off our table here because I want to have it be a wood table. And then our chair. Let's do the body of our trailer first. Mask that off. And for my little blanket sticking out, we're going to make that blue. So let's just get a piece of masking tape there, and we'll do that first. So we'll bring in our sky blue, and I had to move that piece of tape there. So we'll come in heavy with sky blue here on that blanket, or actually I think it might be a pillow that's showing through. And then we've got our seat cushions. We can take that tape off of there. Let's do our table. And for my table, I am going to come in with warm buff. And I'm going to go really light, just like that. I don't want it any darker than that. And then just to be safe, we'll cover everything back up. And we are going to come in with Metropolis again. And I'm not even going to add any ink to this. I want it really light. In fact, I'm going to tap off most of that ink, and we're just going to go really, really light, almost so it remains white. And then I'll also do the little hitch part over here on the left in Metropolis. So now we're moving on to 3. This is our A3 and our B3. Let's mask and start with our green. So I'm masking that blanket. I'm masking that blanket and our rug. And we'll just be careful down there. We don't need to get the whole thing. So let's come in with olive, and we'll get those trees nice and green. And then we'll come in with evergreen, and we'll add highlight. And I'm coming in from the right, just a little bit of shading. And then at the bottom of our shrubs, for my pillow here, I am going to use opulence, and I'm going to come in heavy for that. I want that nice and dark. And then for my rug, we're also going to use opulence, but I'm going to tap off because I don't want it too dark. And then the same thing for my blanket right in the center. And we need to do more masking. I'm going to make the inside of my trailer sky blue. So I'm going to mask that off. And we're going to bring in some dough. We are going to do the base of our chair, the base of our table, and the base of the other chair in dough. So let's just put a little piece of tape there just to protect it. And we will also be doing our little ledge that our plant sits on. And we're going to go fairly heavy. Now we can take a look at what we've got and kind of move those masks a little bit. Let's come in with our Metropolis again. And we're going to touch on that bottom rail, like your foot rail, and the base of our tire here. And then for the trim around our trailer and around our window, I think we're going to come in dark. I think we are going to come in with dark opulence. So let's get everything covered, and you can do whatever colors you want. So for my pillows, I am going to come in with opulence, but we're going to go light. And I'm also going to do my little mug, but I'm going to go heavier on that. Now we've got our sky blue. And we are already on to our last stencil. So I'm going to make the inside of my trailer light opulence. That'll be the back wall in our trailer. And for my chair legs, my table legs, and my ledge, I am going to come back in with dough, but we're not going to go as dark. So I'll make sure to tap off. We need a little bit of opulence on that mug just to highlight the inside. Then we've got some Metropolis, but we're going to keep it light on that step and that bumper and on our hitch over here. And then we've got like a little handle over here. We're going to go heavy with opulence. And then for the base of our trees, we're going to come in with gathered twigs. And we will just go really dark on those. And then we've got one last stencil, which is the remaining trees and greenery, and also the tassel on our blanket and part of our bed. So for our bed, let's come in light opulence and light opulence on that blanket. Then we'll bring in that brush that we had the olive on. I didn't even add any ink. And we'll come in with evergreen and just highlight. And that looks great. But wait until we get some ink on there. We are going to bring our Misty back in. We are going to line that back up in our Misty, nice and snug in that corner there. We need to add some powder because there's a lot of ink on here and we don't want our embossing powder to stick where it's not wanted. And then I'm going to come in with my VersaFine and we are going to ink this up. Now look at that. It is beautiful, but it's very dull. You don't have your outline on there. As soon as we stamp this again, we get that beautiful outline and everything just pops. I love that. So let's stamp it again. I just want to make sure I get enough ink on there that the embossing powder will stick to. And that's perfect. Let's bring in our powder, make sure everything gets coated, and then we can go ahead and heat this up. And I do like to heat from the back just to try to keep it from warping too much, and I think that is perfect. So let's go ahead and clean up our stamp. You know, I did want to mention something. This Pink Fresh Studio stamp cleaner, it's the Ultra Clean stamp cleaner. I got this quite a while ago, and I'll be honest with you. I was not a fan of the scent, but I ran out of my regular stamp cleaner the other day, and so I went for this. I grabbed it because it was on my desk, and oh my goodness, this stuff cleans the pigment ink off of your stamps so well. It looks like it's a brand new stamp. You know, usually pigment ink will leave quite a bit of color on your clear stamps, but oh my gosh, look at that. It just cleans it amazingly. Even though I'm not a fan of the scent, I am going to be stocking up on this stuff because that was just one spray and it is so clean. It is amazing. So now that we've got our panel here, it is absolutely beautiful, all heat embossed, ready to go. I am going to bring in my stitched rectangles and I am just going to line that up and trim that out. I've got a top folding card base here. I am just going to add some foam tape to the back of this. So we've got our panel on our card base. Now all we need is a sentiment. And I've got Savor Today. I decided to pull in a sentiment from my Citrus Still Life set that we used a couple weeks ago, just because I want to send this out as a birthday card. And we can either go on the white on black, or we can go black heat embossing on white. So I did decide to go ahead and use the white with black heat embossing just to try to brighten it up a little bit. I think that's nice and straight. I adhered that with liquid glue and I love it. I just love this camping set. I've also got a couple others that I did here for samples. I have one that I did with a sunrise. So we've got our yellow and our orange sky, and I love that one also. Here we've got one that I did with a night sky. I went with opulence for my sky. And then I've also got another one here that we did like a daytime, very similar to the one we did today. Today's was in grays, but this trailer is in purple. I don't know which one I like best. Which is your favorite? Please be sure to leave me a comment. Please give me a thumbs up. Thank you so much for spending time with me, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.